Good morning. My name is Kurt Ranta. I work for Team 12 as an operations section chief. We'll talk about the Whisky complex today with the Whisky fire, the Sandstone fire, and the Blister Creek fire. We'll start with the Whisky fire like we've been doing here. The west side of the fire is all in the wilderness. That's Division Alpha, not staffed because of the terrain in there, but being observed every day from up here in this Tom Lake Ridge. From a lookout. We also been flying helicopter recon every day, reconnaissance flight, just to kind of keep an eye and make sure we know where the fire is. We did that yesterday. Fire location hasn't really changed. Still having some smoldering fire up in the east fork of the Herman Creek drainage and also in this main fork here down here, but no real movement, just smoldering heavy fuels, even with this hot and dry weather we've had. So moving over to Division Gulf. We'll be doing the same thing we've been doing for the last couple weeks, really, continuing to monitor this line with resources. Additionally, for the last few days, we've been doing soft repair, which really what that is while keeping the lines intact, we're going in and doing some wilderness rehabilitation type stuff with the hand crews. So that involves basically taking cut ends, the stuff that was cut when we put in the fire line, and trying to kind of disguise that or hide that, just so we get those that wilderness value back into the picture there. So they're probably about a third of the way done with that on this line from DP 30 all the way up to the top corner of the fire, and they'll continue on that. They'll also be working and doing some repair in some of this contingency line or indirect line that they put into the east of the fire, and also there's a helispot here that took quite a bit of work to put in the wilderness, and they'll be looking to see what kind of rehabilitation needs to be done there. Moving down to Tango, they have been doing the same type of work down here on this 409 road down towards Wadham Lake. They've largely completed that, so they'll be having the resource advisors go in there and make sure it's good enough. And so with their resources, they're going to push them up and help some of the folks in Gulf today. Moving into, we have a contingency group over here, as I've mentioned in the past. They're assessing the dozer lines that were put in, all these hash marked lines for contingency lines a couple, 3 weeks ago, and seeing what kind of rehabilitation work needs to go on those to prevent erosion in the future. We're not at that point yet, but we're looking that out in the future here in the next couple weeks. Also in these 28 road systems here, doing some a repair from what was occurred from the fire suppression resources traveling back and forth in there with heavy equipment. Let's move over to Sandstone fire. Again, Blister Creek fire up here, the small one, and then Sandstone. No movement on either one of those fires. We do continue to see smokes pop up every now and then on Blister Creek, and then largely over here kind of in some of this partially burned area on the east side of Sandstone. Once we see a smoke, we either fly it or we put some people in an advantageous spot, like either this spot over here that can see this whole side of the fire, or this spot right here where you can kind of see down in here, and we see if we can put people in there, take care of the smoke, put it out. If it's not a threat to the line, then we just monitor it. So starting in Division Delta, which is the east side, they've been doing some work on the contingency line out here that's mostly rehabilitation and repair. And what that's entailing, again, is doing some chipping work from the debris that was cut when they prepped the line, and that work continues to go on this 7010 road system here and all the way up into here. And they're also doing some light repair, cleaning out culverts and ditches that were filled in when we were doing the suppression work with an excavator up here. And they are still continuing for another day, probably doing some mastication work on one of the contingency lines down here. Moving over to Division Yankee. I'll mention this. They do have a lookout here that's permanently stationed here, keeping an eye on both the west flank of Sandstone and the Blister Creek. Yankee, they'll be doing some kind of similar work. They're starting in on some grading work on this 6320 road system, and they're also doing some chipping as well. There's lots of little pieces that they're finding out there that they can fix from the suppression work that occurred. And they also have some folks here at 199 keeping an eye down in here for anything they might need to address. A little bit of change in weather coming. Today will be kind of hot and dry, but a transition day. And then tomorrow cools back down to kind of normal, what we'd expect this time of year. but we do expect it to dry out and heat up again towards the end of next week, and no rain in sight. So we'll vigilantly be monitoring and seeing if there's any change in fire behavior. Thanks a lot.